There's nothing logical about buying a luxury car. It's just not a logical purchase. But it feels so good.
Yeah, fuck yeah. The car, the only place where I can have a party. I can't do that anywhere else in the world. So it's just my car. And so my car is like a church, you know, it's like where I can just have free time and have good times. It's that crazy. So I can understand why they can put price tags like crazy. But what I don't understand is depreciations. It's not conceivable to me.
It's the perception of new is worth more than that's the old model. And marketing has done such an amazing job at obsolescence, convincing you of obsolescence. And you know, your 2018 Rolls Royce, it's not the 2020. Stop being so concerned with what you don't have and start to be present and be thankful for what you do have. You win. And you literally can become bulletproof in this life. Like when we were going through the bankruptcy after I lost my business, every day, I thank you, God, that we have food on our table today.
As a serial entrepreneur, I'm always trying to evolve. Having great conversations with other high performers is one of the best ways to grow, not only in business, but also in spirit, health, and relationships. This is Svencast. Listen, grow, repeat. I have 4 cars because I'm crazy for cars, I admit honestly. But the thing is, like every car has to be managed, you know, you have to change tires when it's winter and then you have to get them to the service and then something's broken and so you need, if you want to stay sane, you need an assistant handling that for you as well. And yada, yada, yada. It's crazy. Yep. And if you're not like very spirit centered, it's easy to, you know, want a new car and, I don't feel good enough anymore with that car or cool enough anymore because, for example, you had hoped more social reactions, but it didn't came. So let's switch the car. And the car industry is making so much money with it. It's crazy. Like if you look at the depreciation of certain cars, it's weird. Like a car that cost, you know, 200,000 about 2 years ago is now at 60K or something, like with some Porsche Cayenne models, for example. It's crazy. So I'm looking at this car industry, for example, and I'm looking at the depreciation and I'm just stunned that they still manage to sell new cars to people, which are dropping in value like crazy, like worse than a stock market crash.
There's nothing
but it
logical.
Still works.
There's nothing logical about buying a luxury car. It's just not a logical purchase. But it feels so good.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
It feels so good. We bought a Volvo recently. A friend of mine, like we went through bankruptcy 2 years ago. We lost our cars, sold one car, lost the other car. And have your car get repossessed in front of your wife and see how that feels. It's insane. It's not good. But a friend from work, the other company I was working at, he's like, hey, it sounds very snobbish to say, but he's like, my nanny doesn't need the car that we have for her anymore. If you want to borrow that and drive it for a few months, you can just pay us like whatever you can afford at the time and have it, and just use it. And then it turned into, well, why don't we just sell it to you? We won't go through a bank because I couldn't get a loan at the time unless it was like credit card interest rates. So it was an amazing situation. But that Volvo, oh my gosh, it's only like a 2014 and, but it's a Volvo S60. It's a T5. The thing gets up and goes. And my wife she loves driving that car because it's just like, you just feel like a different person when you're driving a luxury car. Like it just, it wraps its arms around you. And then like when the engine gets going, you hit the turbo, it's like, how have I lived without you? So yes, nothing about luxury cars is logical, but man, it is a spiritual experience.
Yeah, totally. So this is like, you know, it's kind of like what you described about Jesus is like a luxury car to me. And Just joking. But it's such it's so amazing. It feels so good. Like your whole self-image changes. Like it's but the thing is, with my background, I grew up in Germany, so I'm half German. And as being German, like you're very conditioned towards cars. Like cars is everything because you're in a car nation. And for those of you who don't know it, like Germany is the only place where there is highways where you can drive without any speed limit, which is great if you have like very strong cars. And yeah, this whole feeling and how the materials feel, like I'm so in love with design. And I look at, I still, I sit down in my cars and I still look at all the details as if I was buying them. I mean, buying the car. Mm-hmm. It's crazy and it never stops. It's just, it gives me a constant feeling of fulfillment and happiness. And it's also a special place because I live in a penthouse at the moment and I cannot, and here in Switzerland, people are a little bit sensitive. So I cannot listen to music unless I'm wearing like headphones or so. So, and during, Corona and COVID times, literally the car is the only place where I can have a party. It's the only place. Like I can't do that anywhere else in the world. So it's just my car. And so my car is like a church, it's like where I can, be just have free time and have good times. It's that crazy. So I can understand why, they can put price tags like crazy. But what I don't understand is depreciations. It's not conceivable to me.
Yeah. Well, it's the perception of new is worth more than that's the old model. And marketing has done such an amazing job at obsolescence, convincing you of obsolescence. And, your 2000, whatever it is, 2018 Rolls Royce, it's not the 2020. So although you've driven it maybe 3 times, it's lost $120,000 in value. So because there's people wanting to buy the new one. That's all it is. Like that's the only thing.
And it still works, even if you know it. It still works. Like when you have the money, then you're always, I honestly, I always look at the newest models, even if but I make myself not to buy the newest thing. So pretty much everything I bought is used. So it had their like worst depreciation and I'm okay with it because I don't focus on the lack of on the lack. I don't focus on things I don't have, but I focus on things I have, and I'm very thankful for it. And I thank God every day for whatever I have, and even for being able to breathe and to move. Because I'm watching this documentary on Netflix, Unnatural Selection, and then you see I don't know if you know it, but it's about genetic modification and biohackers and stuff. And there's one guy. He cannot move, like he can't move anything. And like when he tried to describe, like he was asked, how does it feel to be in your situation? And he was like, yeah, imagine that you would lay down in a comfortable position and whatever comes up, like you would like to move, there is an itch or there's some pain somewhere, you cannot move, period. Ever. And that was a moment like when I thought, I can be thankful for that, that I'm able to move. I can do these things like, I can breathe without help and I can scratch myself when I feel an itch or something.
Yep.
And I'm doing that a lot. Like, when I try to fall asleep, then I move a lot before that. And it's a thing. So
it's like thankfulness is the antidote for spoiledness. And it's like the antibiotic for it. And if we can teach like our Gen Z, and now I sound like a crotchety old timer, if I can teach my kids, if I can teach Gen Z, and even the millennial generation, stop being so concerned with what you don't have. And start to be present and be thankful for what you do have. Like you win, and you literally can become bulletproof in this life. Like when we were going through the bankruptcy after I lost my business, it was every day, like a thank you, God, that we have food on our table today. That's what it came down to.
How did you get back from this situation where you were, where you had this fight with the boss and you lost your job? Was that the bankruptcy moment as well, or did that came earlier?
So that was a bottom for us financially, but there was still more distance to go down.
Okay.
So within a year of that happening, we ended up moving from Texas to Idaho into Boise. And again, I was just brokering traffic. I was consulting a little bit here and there under the radar, doing everything I could to keep food on the table. I was offer consulting, and this guy reached out to me and said, like, hey, you're buying my software to broker traffic right now. Why don't you make some real money online and have your own product? And I was like, honestly, I don't even have connections to do any of that stuff. And he's like, well, I'll give you all of the connections. The only thing you have to do is find merchant processing for yourself. And little did I know, I was being led into the trials business for, I felt like I was going into prostitution, honestly. Like I slowly went into sex trafficking on my own. I just like walked myself into it. It was the weirdest feeling. You'll understand why I say that in a second, because with trials, it's a forced option. It's called negative option trials, where it's like you're signing up for this and you're paying $4.95 for my bottle of weight loss pills, my Garcinia. And then within 14 days, you're going to get billed $100 or $97 for this every single month. And these people were being led from affiliates through fake celebrity endorsement pages. We've all seen these. Oprah lost 600 pounds on this or whatever the weight loss claim is. Maybe not that extreme. She doesn't need to lose 600 pounds. Oprah, don't come after us. So like Oprah lost 150 pounds on this or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they lead them to my product. Oprah never took my product. So you have these fake celebrity endorsements. My skin cream, I had a skin cream as well. It was doing, a couple hundred sales a day. One weekend it did like 3,000 sales in a day, which destroyed my merchants, my mids. It froze all of our money, froze all of our assets. But like the non-quitter that I am, I leveraged us personally so heavily to keep our affiliates happy and to pay them, even though they screwed me, to keep cash flow going. So my merchant accounts didn't all shut down. Because when you're running hot like that, you have to load balance on multiple merchant accounts. Yeah. So I kept feeding them. I fed them with our personal credit cards. Like I got us into over $200,000 leveraged at that point in personal debt, because all that money was frozen in a bank account somewhere that I couldn't touch, because I knew I'd get it back. So I'm like, it's no big deal. I'll just, I'll run like this for a couple months and then, but no, it's that greed. It's like, I've got to go more. I've got to get bigger. And I ended up processing over $2 million that year in sales. But with all the merchant fees, with all the chargebacks, with all the fraud that was coming from affiliates, I ended up at $500,000 in debt from that time, from just 10 months of running like that. And I figured it out. I was like, okay, I found out the real way these guys make money is they mess with the pixel. And for every 10 sales, they only report 5. So now they're keeping 50% more margin to make themselves more money. This is what big affiliate networks will do. And I was like, oh, that's how you do it. And so I started running like that. And then I woke up in the middle of the night. I remember figuring it out. I'm like, I'm going to do 10 million next year. But I was feeling all along the way, I was violating my conscience. And it's a wild feeling to be like, but I figured it out. I got to do a little bit more. And this like voice is saying, this isn't who you are. You are literally tricking people into sending you money. I mean, obviously I was sending them products and all that, but just the way it was sold on the front end, it just wasn't good. It wasn't righteous. Like you couldn't feel good about it. I wouldn't show my grandma like, hey, buy my skin cream. It's $100. And by the way, you'll get billed for it next month as well. I wouldn't do that. so why was I doing it to these people I didn't know? It was almost worse. So anyways, I decided, it was like, I figured this out. I'm going to scale this thing. And then in the middle of the night, this voice was really urgent. It was like, this is not who you are. I want you to shut the whole thing down tomorrow. And that I obeyed that voice. I was like, okay, this felt like one of those, it was like a God moment. Like if Jesus is saying this to me, I honor that voice above everything. And it doesn't make sense to me, but it kind of does make sense because it was talking to my conscience. And so I did. I shut it down. I was in so much debt. Affiliate networks were coming after me. My poor wife, like we had 2 lawsuits show up on our door while we're eating dinner. These affiliate networks trying to sue us for the money of the fraudulent traffic that they sent. They still want to get paid. It was a very emotionally intense time. But chose bankruptcy, chose to start over and start from scratch. That was 2 years ago now. And yeah, we're building back up. So that was the bottom financially. That was cars getting repossessed. That was losing absolutely everything. And especially my own pride. That was a huge deal to me, was being an entrepreneur, being a CEO, growing something successful, being an internet marketer, being the guy, right? It's so fleeting, and it doesn't really feed your soul. It's not who you really are. There's always somebody better than you and making more than you and smarter than you and more successful. So it's one of those races, like you're just chasing your tail. But yeah, that's what happened with that. That was not the old boss. That was totally my own doing, creating a company and multiple merchant accounts and running hard and running hot. And I have to say that was very, very emotionally distressing for sure.
And that happened 2 years ago.
Yep.
Okay, so in 2018. So I see. In how, like being at the bottom, how did you get out of that? And is your wife still with you? And how did that work?
Yes, she is still with me. I was working by myself, so I was literally using an office at my in-laws' house. They have a pretty large house, and I had an office there. They hadn't moved into that house yet, so I had this empty, giant house to myself, just me and my thoughts as I was going through this and trying to handle and like, you have to understand, like my biggest nightmare is owing people money and not being able to pay them. I don't know why. I don't know if other people struggle with that. It's like this pride issue.
Yeah.
If I borrowed or whatever, if I owe you and I can't pay you, shame on me. You know, I did everything I could to pay people back from that time. But obviously I had to provide for my family as well. So I shielded my wife from this stuff, kept her out of it completely as a protection mechanism, but she could see it. Like, it literally aged me. Like, I'm 35 years old. Like, I shouldn't be gray as I am right now. But it aged me because I held it all in. And if I didn't have that rock again, that Jesus rock, like, this isn't who I am. My failure isn't who I am. This distress isn't my identity. Like, that was every day. I felt like a crazy person talking to myself, because the other voice that was calling me was alcohol. Hey man, just escape. Just have another drink. Like, oh, Friday's here. Oh, it's 5:00. It's time. You can have a couple drinks now and really just let the week go. It's all going to be okay. No, it's not going to be okay. The problems are still going to be there after I drink this fifth of vodka.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I actually quit alcohol during that time because I felt the draw. I felt like the temptation to get into it more. Like, I needed it. I was like, ooh, that's fire. I'm not going to touch that. So I quit alcohol during that time for that season. And then suicide was the other thing. Like, I heard that voice very loud and clear. Just take your life. Your family would be better off getting paid out on your life insurance than to handle and deal with all this debt. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is what solo entrepreneurs deal with, or people who want to be really big but don't surround themselves with the proper support, and they don't have maybe mental fortitude to handle this sort of thing. Like, I understand suicide now. I totally get it. Like, it's deceptive, and it lulls you in and it draws you in as like, this will finally be the release that you're looking for.
Yeah. It seems like a release. It seems like, if you believe that there is nothing, that it seems like this button where you could just, either reset or just you haven't happened, like your life has never really happened. So you could just switch yourself off.
Reformat.
But I don't believe that it works like that.
No.
I believe that you have a consciousness, and consciousness is a form of energy, in my opinion. And I don't think that this energy that is organized in a certain way, even though it uses a body, that it will just dissolve just because the body is going to stop functioning by force. Yep. I think it would be the attempt to, to create a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
Yep. Yeah, it's totally true. I mean, that energy that you're talking about, I believe that's your spirit, and that your spirit came from somewhere and it's put in your body. And you're right. Your spirit is eternal. Once the lights turn out physically in this realm, you're going to a different realm. And it is what it is. So it's not logical. It's like buying a luxury car. It ain't logical, but it feels good. No. It feels like I felt, why people struggle with pornography. It feels like a release. It feels like an escape at the time, but it's not as detrimental. It's poison again. And I'm so thankful that I did not get sucked into those things. I saw them for what they were, and I was able to stay strong through that time for my family and finally make the right decision. And those 10 months of running like that with that business, it felt like 10 years. It was every single day mental trauma, mental abuse every day. It was, when I hear a Skype message come in from my computer, I get PTSD because it was like affiliate networks coming after me. Like literally, I literally deleted Skype for 2 years until I started working with Digistore to use Skype again.
Oh shit!
So you guys are triggering me. That's what else. No, I'm joking. I'm not triggered. I'm free.
I'm only contacting you through Slack.
Yes, you're good.
Which makes another sound.
It does. Yeah, but I had to start over, man.
In the following episode of Svencast. It's a very different world, and I'm so amazed that we look so similar, but at the same time, we're so different.
There is something that the media is really not covering, and that's kind of the story of the U.S. is media is the main marketing agency for the United States. It's kind of the PR firm for a certain political view here. They want to paint a picture of what society's really like if it favors their political candidates. And it's really sad, honestly.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
You look at the pandemic, there is an absolute epidemic of homelessness in Los Angeles.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and never miss an episode of Svencast again.